Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. So, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, which is really exciting. We are going to be doing a fourth grade standard. So, when you get to fourth grade next year, you're going to be going into this way deeper than what I'm going to be going into it today. But I sort of just want to introduce you to the topic so that way you feel confident going into next year and you already know a little bit about it. So, what we're going to be talking about today is types of lines. So, there's three types of lines that you're going to be learning about in fourth grade. Those lines are parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and intersecting lines. So first, let's talk about parallel lines. So parallel lines are two lines that are always the same distance apart and never touch. They will go on forever and ever and ever and never touch. So you guys know a lot about parallel lines because you know what a parallelogram is. So now, hopefully, there's a little light bulb going off in your brain about why we call it a parallelogram. The reason we call it a parallelogram is because a parallelogram has two sets of sides that are going to go on forever and ever and ever and never touch. They have two sets of lines that are parallel. So parallel lines will never touch. They're going to go on and on and on, straight, and never bump into each other. The next type of line we're going to be talking about is called perpendicular lines. That's kind of a hard word to say. Perpendicular. So perpendicular lines are lines that do cross each other, but they cross each other at a 90-degree angle, or what we like to call a perfect L. So when they cross, it's sort of like when you come to a red light at an intersection, like, when you're driving on the road. Most of the time, an intersection where you see on the street, it'll be a perfect perpendicular line because they're making like a perfect L at the corner. So perpendicular lines cross each other almost like a cross. If you think about what a cross looks like, those are perpendicular lines because they are touching, they're crossing over each other, and they're doing it in a perfect L. And we also like to call this a right angle. So we've talked a little bit about right angles also. And the reason we call this a right angle is because that's a perfect L. It's two lines touching each other to form a perfect L. And then the last one we're going to talk about, which is brand new to you guys, you heard a little bit about parallel lines, a little bit about perpendicular lines, but the last one you've never heard of, and this is intersecting lines. So intersecting lines are two lines that share one point. So basically, they're crossing each other at some point, except it's not making a perfect L. They're just running into each other and touching. So if you think about a trapezoid, the bottom and the top lines are parallel. The bottom and the top lines of a trapezoid are going to go on and on and on forever and never touch. But those two lines on the side that are already pointed inwards to each other, we always kind of draw it up at the top where they're about to touch. Well, that's intersecting. They're going to cross one another, but it's not going to make a perfect L. So here are some pictures for you. So here are parallel lines. And again, you guys are pretty familiar with parallel lines. Two lines that are going to go on forever and ever and ever, never touch. Here are perpendicular lines. It looks just like a cross, like what I was telling you. And when they meet right here in the middle, it makes a perfect L. And whenever you see that tiny little box right there, that is just our way of showing you that makes a perfect L. If you see that tiny little box, that means, hey, by the way, this is a perfect L. So here's perpendicular lines, and then here's intersecting lines. Yes, they're crossing, but no, they don't look like perfect L's. So yes, they're touching at some point. Looks like an X, sort of. But it can be any kind of intersecting. Like, it could be all the way over here, as long as they're just crossing each other and not making a perfect L. Okay, so now we're going to watch the visual learning. Again, this is fourth grade. So it might look a little bit different.
How can you describe pairs of lines? Let's look at some ways. A line is a straight path of points that goes on and on in opposite directions.
The arrows mean that the line goes on and on.
A pair of lines can be described as parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting.
I'm just going to pause this right here and tell you guys the secret word. The secret word is swim. SWIM, swim, because that's what I wish I was doing outside right now. Keep watching though, just because you know the secret word. Please don't stop the video because you're going to need to hear this lesson to do the exit ticket. Remember, this is 4th grade stuff. It's brand new, so keep watching.
Does a line have a certain number of points? Explain. No, there are an infinite number of points on a line. The picture shows different kinds of pairs of lines. The railroad tracks are parallel because they never meet. The railroad ties are perpendicular to the railroad tracks because they intersect at right angles. Pairs of lines are given special names depending on their relationship. Parallel lines never intersect. Intersecting lines pass through the same point. Perpendicular lines are lines that intersect to form right angles. Are all perpendicular lines intersecting? Explain.
Okay, so are all perpendicular lines intersecting? Well, yes. Perpendicular lines are intersecting with each other, but not intersecting lines doesn't just mean that they're perpendicular, because remember, perpendicular lines have that 90-degree angle, that perfect L.
Yes, perpendicular lines intersect at one point. Are all intersecting lines perpendicular?
Are all intersecting lines perpendicular? Well, no, because intersecting just means that they're touching. Doesn't mean that they're forming that perfect L.
No, perpendicular lines are a certain type of intersecting lines. Can two lines intersect at more than one point? Explain. No, lines are straight, so they can only intersect at one point.
Okay, all right, let's go back to our presentation. All right, so I know these are kind of hard to see and they're a little bit blurry, but we're going to use geometric terms to describe what's happening. So we have 2 cars right now. So what you're supposed to imagine is that the blue car is going to continue straight and that the yellow car is going to continue straight. What would happen? Well, if the blue car continues straight, the yellow car is going left, so it's going to continue straight. It is going to form a perpendicular crash. They are going to cross into each other at a 90-degree angle, making a perpendicular crash or accident. Okay, so for this one, we have the yellow car moving right and the white car moving left. These 2 cars, we're going to assume that they're going to go straight and that they're never going to make any turns, and that's going to form parallel lines. These 2 cars are going to go on forever and ever and ever and never touch. Luckily, because that's safe. And then we have right here, the orange car is moving diagonal this way, and the white car is moving diagonal this way. And this is going to form intersecting lines. They're not going to crash into each other, make a perfect L, but they are going to crash into each other, and it is going to be intersecting. Okay, so now you guys are going to go ahead and work on your exit ticket. There's only 3 questions. I show you a picture of lines, and you answer whether it's parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting. There's 3 different types of lines, 3 choices, 3 questions. That, and then plus the secret word, which you guys already know, and if you missed it, you better back up. All right, so good luck. You guys are going to do great.